Hello. Today I want to talk to you about brands. You see, like it or not, we've all got a little bit of brand snobbery within us, and whether that's what's cool to wear, where's hip to be seen eating, or in our case, AutoEV, what's cool to be driving. A little over 30 years ago, Toyota wanted to compete with the big premium brands of the luxury car market, such as BMW, Mercedes, Audi and Jaguar. But it also knew that no one would buy the car if it had a humble Toyota badge on its rump. So they invented Lexus, their sub-brand. And, to all intents and purposes, it was a success. The first car produced, the LS400, had more toys than Hamleys, was built like a church and was as quiet as one inside. Other Japanese manufacturers followed suit. Honda gave us Acura, Nissan Infiniti and Mazda Casados. And whilst Mazda has ditched Casados and Nissan's Infiniti hasn't really had the success in Europe that it has elsewhere, and Honda's Acura is really just in the States, Lexus has stayed the course because its USP was hybrids. It dallied a bit with diesels in the last generation IS, but now that that's gone, it's stuck with hybrids. But why is it taking them so long to give us an electric car? And now that they have, is it any good? Welcome to AutoEV. Now, before we get on to this week's road test review of the new Lexus UX300e, it is of course that time of the video where I tell you to like the videos, subscribe to the channel and press the little bell button down below. Many of you have, and we're so grateful. In celebration, I've had a haircut. Back to the car. What is the Lexus UX? Well, it's their compact 5-door crossover. It's sort of inadvertently replaced the unloved CT hatchback that was out a few years back. It's been out since 2019, but only up until now available as a petrol hybrid. Now, this is Lexus's first full electric car. But oddly, despite them showing the new LFZ electrified concept, Lexus have yet to subscribe to the fully electric future that many of its rivals had, stating that hybrids still do have their place in certain markets. So given that, is this going to be any good? Now, Lexus's styling has always been, well, a little bit of a tale of two halves as far as I'm concerned. Cars like their RC Coupe, which competes with the BMW 4 Series and Mercedes-Benz C-Class Coupe and Audi A5, I think looks fantastic. In fact, I think it's probably the best looking car amongst its peers. And their sports car, the LC, is bite the back of your hand gorgeous. And whilst their NX mid-size SUV is neat and quite tidy, I think the larger RX looks a little bit fussy in some places. And the ES Saloon, well, that's just forgettable as far as I'm concerned. Now, the UX sort of is somewhere in between those. It's got quite nice lines to it in places. It's got this sort of like big Lexus grille, which is slightly different on the electric car than it is on the hybrid. It's a little bit more filled in, a bit more aero here, and you've got these sharp lights here and this lovely bit of chrome down there. But then there's also some quite kind of fussy lines on it too. But on the whole, I think it kind of works. And it's round the side this fussiness kind of manifests itself in loads of different kind of lines that seem a little bit at odds with the rest of the car. Now, Lexus call this a crossover, but in reality it's sort of one of those kind of more raised hatchbacks in reality. It's got its ubiquitous black plastic wheel arch extensions here, and this is the line that I really like, this one here that parallels that and runs up to the mirror. There's another one at the back on the back wheel arch. You can see there it just goes up and then runs to the rear light. But it's this line here that just seems to sweep up to nowhere and just disappear. And there's another one kind of down there that doesn't really mirror it. And then, although this is a beautifully stunning spec of car that we've got today with this dark metallic green paintwork and tan leather inside, why has it got this great big electric badge on it? Why do we need that? Why do we need to shout about being electric? But round the back, I have to say I quite like it. These lights, the way they swoop up at the corners here, look like a pair of horn rimmed glasses, and your light bar across the centre. Big Lexus badge there, and then a nice practical black plastic rear bumper that kind of comes up into this pert rear end. Now, boot space. It is quite small at just 367 litres. There's some storage underneath here for your cables, which is quite nice, and you do get the domestic 3-pin plug cable as well. And I know this parcel shelf is a soft one rather than a rigid cover. Seats do split 60-40, but the boot space, 367 litres. Let me show you. Here's our suitcases. I have a big suitcase which goes in there, a medium one which goes in there, and a small cabin bag that goes in. That's not going to work. Yeah, no. Small. So, rear seat space. Let's see what that's like. Now, the seat's set up from my driving position, and again, I'm struggling to get there's no space for my feet underneath here, and you can see my legs are sort of forced up. There's okay leg room and reasonable headroom, but it doesn't feel particularly wide. I don't think you'll be getting 3 adults in here, and obviously because the other cars in the UX range are hybrids, you've got this raised transmission tunnel here. You certainly get 2 ISOFIX points either side, so for small children it's okay. But then there's the other downside. There's a a mat pocket on the back of this seat, but none on this seat. And there's no door bins either to put things in. You do get a folding armrest with cup holders, but that's it. Now, we're going to come on to the equipment later on. But this car, which is a mid-level car, the Premium Plus package car, is quite well specified. However, obviously we've got the leather seats in here. You also get heated rear seats in the back, and there's 2 USB charging ports for charging up iPads or phones, if you can find anywhere to put them. So it's a sort of mixture of good and bad up here for the driver. First things first, let's talk about quality of materials, and this is one of the good parts about the car. It is built like you wouldn't believe in here. Everything feels solid. The materials themselves are just lovely. I've got this lovely kind of soft feel. I don't know what it is, but it's almost like a kind of aniline type leather that's up here. You know, soft touch plastics here. The leather itself is as smooth as a cashmere codpiece. Now, as I say, this is the mid-spec car. It's the Premium Plus pack car. So you do get things like Apple CarPlay, Android Auto as standard, Bluetooth. I've got heated seats in this one. I've got heated steering wheel. There's cruise control. There's also the usual safety features like lane keep assist, radar guided cruise control, and so forth. We also got ventilated seats in this particular car as well. But oddly, you don't get satellite navigation. Now, I thought that was going to be a real black mark against the car at first, but then I started to think about it. Do we bemoan the fact that cars don't really come with CD players anymore? Maybe some people do, but on the whole, no. So, because it's got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, you end up just using Google Maps or Waze or whatever. So actually, that kind of makes sense, the fact that you bring the tech to the car. And therefore that's as up to date as the navigation is going to be, as up to date as you've got on your phone. Well, I think that's a good thing. But then we go on to the slight kind of negatives, which is this infotainment screen up here. Now, unless you go for the top of the range Takumi pack car, you're stuck with this 7.3-inch display. Now, it looks like this whole thing is a display, but it's not. It's just this little screen in the center here, which kind of just looks a little bit, I don't know, like graphics that are kind of 5 years out of date. And you control it via this touchpad here, which, if you're right-handed like me, it's quite sort of sensitive, and it's not easy just to use on the move. Not maybe like a rotary dial would have been, or something like that, or a touch screen perhaps. The driving position itself, however, is very, very good. I've got lots of adjustment on the seat, and obviously, as I say, the seats themselves are heated and ventilated, and they're very comfortable on a long drive. The steering wheel, it's a little bit fat and thick with this soft leather, but it's actually okay, and it's quite comfortable. The instrumentation panel is good as well. All the information that you need is there, although some of the smaller screens at the side, the small information that you might need, like what's on your Bluetooth or you know, car readouts and things, it's a little bit small. They've crammed a lot of information into there. Maybe a bigger screen up there where you could get access to it might have been the solution for up there. But on the whole, it feels like it's built to last, and it's certainly built to do a lot of miles. Storage space, unlike the rear, is okay up front. You've got good sized door bins. I've got a couple of cup holders here, which is good. And then this weird witchcrafty thing here, which opens both ways. Brilliant. I don't know how that works, but it does. This little panel in front is also the controls for your radio, so volume and tuning and going into your media. And again, it's okay. You get used to it, and I must admit, it becomes second nature. But of course, you've got the volume control here and the tuning obviously duplicated on the steering wheel, so you tend to end up just using that. But on the whole, a nice effort, let down a little bit by that. Now, Lexus has equipped the UX300 with a usable capacity battery of 50 kilowatt hours, which should, according to WLTP figures, give a range of around about 196 miles. So in reality, as we know, it's probably more likely to be 150 to 160. Now, that's quite low. And despite Lexus's claim that this probably is bought more for sort of like urban running around, given the price point the car's at and the other cars that occupy the same price point and therefore same class of car, it's about 100 miles less than what we would expect. I mean, you look at things like the Kia e-Niro, the Volkswagen ID4, the new Skoda Enyaq, they're all capable of over 200 miles. The other odd thing is, Lexus have equipped it with a CHAdeMO socket. That means it'll only take a charging rate of up to 50 kilowatts, which means you can go from 10 to 80% in 50 minutes. Again, a lot longer than on most of its rivals. This also comes with a normal Type 2 socket on the other side, so charging from your home wall box, a 7 kilowatt wall box, would take 7 hours to fill. So is it here that the UX300e claws back some of its failings? Well, yes and no. Performance is good. It's 201 brake horsepower, so 0 to 62 is dispatched in 7.5 seconds, which is perfectly adequate for most people. You get 3 driving modes: Eco, Normal and Sport, as is the norm with most of these cars. And even in normal mode, the car feels quite sprightly. When it's in Sport, the steering weights up. It's got a nice feel, it's got a reasonable level of grip. You can unsettle it with a prodigious application of throttle mid-bend, or if you're pulling out of a junction, it's easy to make the front tyres just chirrup a little bit as you pull away. So that's quite nice. What I will say is, where it really wins is its refinement. This is a beautifully quiet car. I mean, it's one thing Lexus has always been very, very good at, and I have to say this is no different. Wind noise is at a minimum. There's very little road noise comes through into the cabin from the car, and it's only the harshest of surface imperfections that cause the suspension to give any form of complaint whatsoever. Its ride quality is good, not like a Citroen C4 ride quality, but again, good. It's more on the comfort side than on the sport side, I'm pleased to say. And that's something I applaud Lexus for. They've not chased after that kind of sporty feeling. It's not that at all. My driving position's nice. Everything's laid out well. Everything's clear and easy to hand. What I will say is, visibility's not so great behind. That styling at the rear, you just get a little blind spot from that over-the-shoulder visibility. Where I'm a little bit confused is with the brakes. Now, don't get me wrong, the brakes are okay. They stop the car, there's a reasonable feel to the pedal, that's fine. It's in its regeneration that I have a little bit questions about it. You see, you pull the transmission lever back from the D mode into B like you do on other cars. But when you're in that, you've then got 4 levels of regeneration that you can adjust via these 2 paddles behind the steering wheel. But I don't feel any difference between level 1 and level 4. I don't really see what they've achieved with this. I genuinely thought when I put it into level 4, the car would be almost one pedal driving, and it would pretty much stand up on its nose when I took my foot off the accelerator. Imagine my surprise when it didn't. I literally had to come straight off the accelerator onto the brake. I don't see the point. If you're not going to make it that aggressive, why have it? You know, 4 levels of adjustable regeneration should go from barely nothing to, as I say, standing the car up on its nose, but it doesn't. I genuinely don't feel any difference between the 4 levels. I don't see the point, Lexus. Why did you do it? Other than that, again, it's that middle of the road acceptability. The one area, as I say, that's a real standout for me is refinement. Other than that, it's okay. Now, the recent decision by the UK government to reduce the bracket of the plug-in car grant to £35,000 from £50,000 does affect the UX's pricing. The range starts at £43,000. This car, the mid-range Premium Plus pack car with the metallic paint, is a whisker under £48,000, and the Takumi pack car comes in at £53,500. Now that's a lot of money for a small compact crossover with a sub 200 mile range. A lot of money. So what's the competition like for the Lexus UX300e? Well, it's plentiful, let's just say that. At similar money, you're looking at cars such as the Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Volkswagen ID4, Skoda's Enyaq, Nissan's forthcoming Ariya, and all of those cars are much bigger and offer a much bigger range. So is it the premium products? Well, Mercedes are about to launch the EQA compact crossover, and Audi's coming onto the market with the Q4 e-tron, its version of the MEB platform car. But again, they're going to offer much more range than the Lexus does for similar type of money. So the Lexus is going to have a real fight in its hands if it's to win over some new fans. So here's what we like and what we don't like about the Lexus UX300e. We like its overall styling, its comfort and refinement, it's well equipped, performance is good, and Lexus build quality. We don't like its very limited range, rear seat space, the small boot, and it's expensive. You know, my father passed away 12 years ago, but I know that if he was here today, he'd be on the phone to me saying, well, what's it like? What's the first electric Lexus like? You see, Lexus was his brand. It was his brand of choice. He adored the 2 LS400s that he had. Would I have to disappoint my father? Yes. Yes, I would. You see, it's just recently dawned on me what Lexus really do. They come out slightly later than everyone else and meet the standard. They don't move the goalposts. The original LS400 was an exceptionally good car, and it was every bit as good as an S-Class, a 7 Series, an A8 or an XJ. But it wasn't really better. They didn't shift the game. In my opinion, if you're going to turn up late to a party, you better make a hell of an entrance and turn up with a really decent bottle of red for your hosts. With the UX300e, what they've done is they've turned up halfway through main course and handed over a bottle of Tesco's finest Shiraz. It's acceptable, it's just not exceptional. Sorry, Dad. Thank you for watching AutoEV. As always, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and remember to press the little bell button that's down below, because then you'll receive notification of when our next video goes live. And if you haven't been there, please do head over to autoev.co.uk, where our back catalogue of road test reviews are just waiting for your viewing pleasure. Thanks again. We'll see you soon. So, you've watched our video. It's now my job to tell you to like and subscribe, and press the little bell button to receive notification of when our next video is uploaded.